Alrighty, so you know the drill by now. In this video, I'll look at the first A game as part of the first part of the review for match week number 5, and then tomorrow I'll look at the last 6 games. And there was definitely some surprising result in terms of this match week, but then again, coming into this week with just so many teams dealing with players missing due to international duty, it's kind of hard to say that some of these results are surprising, and that there are some teams that they definitely took a surprising loss that you gotta kind of take that as a grain of salt because of how many players that they're missing because of them on international duty. But that being said, let us actually get into the first game. And the first one is the Portland Timbers versus the LA Galaxy. And for the second straight week, first game of the match week ended in a 0-0 draw. And I think in this one, both teams will be very frustrated. The fact that they didn't get a win in this one. Because we talked about before, this maybe is the first desperation derby of the season. Both of these teams desperately need to get all 3 points because of a slow start to the season. And they don't get that because of this 0-0 draw. Now, in the first half, I want to mention the Timbers were wearing their rose red kit and the Galaxy were wearing their green kits. It was very confusing. I mean, it was kind of confusing that, of course, is the case. And I understand, both of these teams wants to wear their beautiful new jersey that they have. I always loved the Timbers rose kit, and I can't believe I still haven't bought mine yet. And, the Galaxy green kit, I wear that during my preview. But, I feel like if the Galaxy was going to wear their new jersey, this probably wasn't the game to do so, especially with the way that the Timbers, of course, are wearing green. And again, it's kind of also weird the Timbers allow the Galaxy to decided to wear green. Like if you are a person that have never watched MLS before and you watch this game, you'll be very confused. The fact that you thought the Timbers were wearing green in this one and the Galaxy was wearing red, but either way, in the 6th minute, Bingham did deny Bergman, who tried to chip it over Bingham from long range. By the way, I want to quickly mention the fact that there may be some controversy surrounding the Timbers goalkeeping situation because Aja Ivic, he actually openly said just I think yesterday that he actually is not injured and that the whole talk about how he's injured is actually a lie. And if that, of course, is true, oh boy, then we're looks like we're maybe getting to another situation similar to the Eric Williamson situation, and that this is kind of one thing that for Savarese he's got to be careful because this already has happened to him once where he decided to throw out of Eric Williamson because they didn't see eye to eye, and I think this is now the same case with Ivisic. And again, if this is the true thing, those Savarese out is crowd is going to get louder and louder because of these bad resort. The Timbers, of course, are having, and they're off to again another slow start. But that being said, in the 10th minute, Boyd did hit one right to Bingham before I thought the Galaxy was on the front foot to get the opening goal. Judd actually struck the post as he was in on goal. I thought Preston Judd had a good game in this one. They mentioned multiple time about his physicality, and he was very physical. I mean, he was a very big guy and a guy that can really be not afraid in terms of getting in the scrap of things. But the possession was still heavily in favor, or the possession was heavily in favor of the Galaxy, and the Timbers were just painting in. And again, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to do their bread and butter, but so far this season, they've tried that, and it just have not worked whatsoever. Bergman then hits one right to Bingham. There was a huge shout for a penalty from the Portland faithful not given. Puig then puts it wide from close range. I mean, again, these chances have all come from the Galaxy. Like 42 minutes in, the Timbers have still registered no shots in the game, and they didn't look threatened at all throughout that first half. And the crowd let them know it because at halftime whistle, boos were raining down. Like those Timbers faithful, they were very frustrated of what they see from their team in a game that again. I have a feeling this maybe is a must-win with the way that they have really struggled in the beginning part of the season. Now in the second half, I thought it was much better from them, and again, Gio's probably said something to this team to kind of fire up this team a little bit to have them had some more possession and control the game. But unfortunately, the final third was not so. It was still lacking for this team. Though they did have their first shot in the 54th minute when Santiago Moreno puts it high from close range before the post with denying Rodriguez on the free kick. So second time today that the Galaxy hits the post. Judd then had an overhead kick that went wide. And again, I thought the post has been the man of the match for the Timbers up to that point. But then the chances kind of started to become far in between. And there was a lot of stop and go, a lot of fouls that was committed throughout this. In fact, we didn't see our next chance until the 84th minute when Judd puts it high from close range. And then in the 89th minute, this was the moment for the Timbers. I mean, Kinsman, he absolutely robbed Nishgoda, who was on the doorstep of the goal, and Nishgoda, his goal drought continue. Like he is a guy that you can clearly see he's lacking confident in front of goal. Then in the first minute stoppage time, Rasmussen would put it over the bar, and really for the first time, the Timbers finally started to create some chances and able to put some sustained pressure against the Galaxy, and they were pushing for the late winner. Nishgoda would then hit one into the side netting, and also just to note that half of the stadium thought that that one went in because of the way that it was hit. But in the fourth minute stoppage time, there was another huge shout for a penalty, not given this time for the Timbers. Bingham then in the fifth minute stoppage time had to be subbed off because of injury and because of the fact that the Timbers were out of substitution. So looks like we are gonna see another rare situation of a field goalkeeper in net or field player go in goal, and this time it's Justin Rasmussen that came into goal. I swear this happens like for the past couple of years, and I always love to see that. I mean, last year I saw that with Alex Rodon, and now Justin Rasmussen came into goal. Unfortunately for him, he didn't really need to do much. I mean, there was only 1 minute more to play after he came in goal, but again, this also kind of goes back to what we're going to talk about. How now that if Bingham looks like he must have suffered a hamstring injury, what do you do if you're the Timbers? I mean for Savarese, he's got to put Ivasic back in goal. Like I know that if the rumors are true, the fact that there's been some bickering between both of them, they got it. He has to put him because I think if they decided to once again go with a backup or an emergency backup goalkeeper, then this goalkeeping situation can really start to be a big question, and especially with the way that Ivasic has also just signed a new contract, it's kind of odd. The fact that of course is the case where he's already having some issue uh, with the head coach in this one. But nevertheless, it was a frustrating result for both teams. 0-0 was the final score. Shots in this one: 17 shots compared to 10 that the Timbers had. 4 shots on goal compared to 1 that the Timbers had. 6 shots off target compared to 4 that Portland has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that LA has. And possession-wise, 67% possession compared to 33% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And again, a very frustrating afternoon for both of these teams. For the Timbers, more points drop at home. Their slow start continue. And for the Galaxy, they've been having the same problem that they had in the last game and also the previous game, and really the story of the season, where they just have not been clinical in front of goal. And I know they were missing some key players in this one, but again, they got to be more clinical in front of goal if they want to start finally getting their first win of the season. But that being said, moving on in the next one is Charlotte versus the New York Red Bulls. So early on in this one, in the 7th minute, Lucanias would hits one right to Marks from close range. As I thought the Red Bulls were on the front foot early in this one. Cornell would deny gains though from close range before Marks would deny Fernandez, and then it kind of pinball ball in the box. And fortunately for Marks, it kind of came right back to him. Lucanias then hits one that actually hits toward the roof of the net. But I thought the Red Bulls, they played a relatively good first half in this one, and this is kind of the thing that we've seen the Red Bulls done before, where they tends to do do better when they're playing on the road compared to where they're playing at home. And they were pressing to trying to get the opener, and they do. In the 42nd minute, it's Elias Manuel that gets the goal for the Red Bulls to take a 1-0 lead, but it was pretty much a gift. I mean, it just came off of a WTF turnover from Nathan Burns, and that's got. I feel bad for Nathan Burns. I mean, this is his first game, and we've seen a lot of players this week playing their first game because of multiple team missing players due to international duty, and they really have to dig into the depth chart to pretty much guys are kind of like in the bottom part of the roster removed to get their starts. But yeah, this is not a great moment for Nathan Burns. Just gave the ball away in a terrible position, and Manuel said thank you very much. He buries that one, and the Red Bulls were leading 1-0 heading into halftime. Now in the second half, Marks would deny Harper from close range. I thought George Marks had another good game in this one, and the goal that he conceded, that was not on him. But the chances kind of started to become far few between, which that kind of favored the Red Bulls because with a 1-0 lead on the road, and if you're not allowing a lot of chances, that usually always favored the road team, especially when they're taking when they have the lead. And again, there was not much rhythm into this game. But then in the 74th minute, Charlotte did get the equalizer, and it actually isn't any of their player that scored. It's actually an own goal by Reyes there. So yeah, unfortunate here. It was actually a great cross that was coming into the box, and it's just one of those where when the ball deliver in that dangerous area, it is very hard for a defender to try to deal with it. I mean, sometimes you want to cut it out, but you also don't want to just hit it into your own net. And in this case, that's what happened to Reyes. I mean, he's trying to slice that one behind for a corner, but only he sliced that one into his own net. So yeah, the game was tied up at one apiece. Vargas then goes for a goal, but he hits it high as Charlotte was trying to take the lead. And then Lindsay hits one just high. And again, Charlotte looked like they were looking to try to get their first home win of the season. They were pushing for that second goal and go ahead goal. Though on the other end, Barlow would hit one right to Marks in the 87th minute. But in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one. I mean, it wasn't really a highly entertaining game, and this was kind of a game that I was maybe expecting in some of the other games. I'll talk about how it was the opposite of what I thought it was going to be, with both team missing players due to international duty. But yeah, in this one, it ended in a 1-1 draw. Shots in this one, only 9 shots compared to 6 that Charlotte has. 1 shot on goal compared to 6 that the Red Bulls had. Both team had 3 shots off target, 2 shots that was blocked compared to none that the Red Bulls had. And possession wise, obviously, this is the New York Red Bulls. They're not going to have majority of the possession, only 26% compared to 74% that Charlotte has in this game. And again, for Charlotte, they were able to come back to get a draw of this one, but they'll be frustrated the fact that they still haven't got their first home win. And for the Red Bulls, I think they'll be frustrated the fact that they had chances in this one, and that they weren't able to put away their chances and just kind of had to settle for a point out of this game. But yeah, moving on in terms of the next match is Columbus and Atlanta. So remember how I said this was gonna end 0-0? Yeah, about that. And I get it. Atlanta, they're missing a lot of their key starter, and it definitely took an effect in this one. But I did not expect the fact that this was gonna end 6-1. And especially with Columbus, I think it's safe to say that, we talk about Columbus, they definitely is a team that could have some good depth pieces because, a lot of guys that they had playing in this one was playing for Crew 2, who won the MLS Next Pro title last season. So I think it wasn't a big surprise that all those guys that were playing for Crew 2 that were playing for the main team in this one, and they definitely showed up to a point where they absolutely annihilated Atlanta United in this one. And it started early on after Matan puts it wide from long range. In the 14th minute, Aiden Morris would score to give Columbus a 1-0 lead. They say that was his first career MLS goal, which I don't believe that. I don't think that his first career MLS goal. I swear Aiden Morris have scored a goal before. But yeah, as of now, they do say that it is his first career MLS goal, and that gives Columbus a 1-0 lead. Ramirez tried to go for a second one for the Crew, but it goes wide. Always great to see Christian Ramirez back in MLS, and I still miss him doing his time with Minnesota United, and I still kind of follow him closely, and he turns out to have a monster game in this one. But as I said, so far I thought the Crew kind of has complete control of this one, and Atlanta again, it looked like they desperately miss Almada in this one, and I think you know, we talk about how Thiago Almada has just been so important to this Atlanta United team to a point where I think he's almost getting to a point that is similar to a Miguel Almiron kind of player that Atlanta United has had a couple of years ago when they were at the peak of their power, because they really didn't offer anything on the attacking end. But the good news is at least they do head to halftime with just a 1-0 deficit, despite they were pretty much getting completely dominated in the first half. Not so much luck in the second half, though, because this is when the goal scoring parade happened for Columbus. It started in the 46th minute and started right away with Christian Ramirez. Welcome back to MLS, and welcome to the Columbus Crew here, scoring his first goal for the Crew from Russell Rowe and Matan to make it 2-0 in favor of Columbus. Not long after, it's Quinton scoring from Matan to make it 3-0 in favor of Columbus. I think that's the first goal for Patrick Quinton there in his career. In fact, I think there was 4 players that actually scored their first career MLS goal for the Crew. I think that's like the most that we've seen in an MLS game in history. In the 63rd minute, Ramirez would score again. This time he scored for Maria to make it 4-0 in favor of Columbus. And again, the floodgates was just completely blown open. And that Atlanta defense, remember, they don't have Miles Robinson in this game. And again, that seems like it's a big loss because without Miles Robinson, the defense basically revert back to the defense last season, which is shipping goals for fun, and even though they seem to be on international break because it was non-existent up to that point. And in the 68th minute, it gets worse as it would be 5-0 in favor of Columbus as Jason Russell-Rowe would score here from Farsi and Matan to make it 5-0. Atlanta does get a consolation goal in the 71st minute as Brooks Lennon would score, and it was a great goal from Brooks Lennon. I mean, apparently Atlanta United they're just going to always tend to like to score some amazing goal, which hence that's why this year in terms of the goal of the week contention, they always tends to be in nomination, and especially when you have a guy like Thiago Almada that can score some absolute goal. Also, that of course does happen, but nevertheless, it was a great goal from Lennon, and really kind of the only time when Atlanta kind of looked threatening going forward on the attacking end. Though in the 82nd minute, they thought they made it 5-2 when Peralta actually puts it into the back of the net, but the goal was disallowed for offside, and rightfully so. But I also thought apparently neither of these teams were playing defense because that was sloppy defending from the Columbus Crew at the back. I mean, I get it. You're leading 5-1, and they definitely took their foot off the gas. But yeah, I don't think Wilfred Nancy is going to be happy about that, even with the disallowed goal, because knowing Wilfred Nancy, and he demands a lot to this team, no matter if they're up 5-1 or it's like 1-0. He wants his team to continue and push for the next goal. And fortunately for Columbus, they do restore that 5-goal lead as Arston would score his first career MLS goal from Will Sands to make it 6-1 in favor of Columbus, and that is the final score of this game. So after a game when Atlanta just blow out Portland by a score of 5-1, yeah, this game is not going to help their goal differential. In fact, they actually lose 1 goal of the goal differential because they beat Portland by 4 goals. Here they lost 5 goals. Kind of just goes with that summary of blowout taken, blowout given, or actually maybe it's the other way: blowout given, blowout taken by Atlanta United. But the shots in this one, I mean, it was one-sided. 15 shots compared to just 2 that Atlanta has. 1 shot on goal for the 6 that Columbus had. 4 shots off target for the none that Atlanta has. 5 shots out of block for the 1 that Atlanta has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Atlanta United has in this game. And like I said, for Columbus, this is definitely good news because it's definitely proven that they do have the depth, and that maybe there are some of these players that play in this one might have just got themselves another good look for Wilfred Nancy, and maybe Wilfred Nancy might have a good problem to have right now where with a lot of these guys playing very well, maybe they get a chance to be slotting into the starting 11 or even coming off the bench and get more playing time. But for Atlanta United, I mean, I think there's really not much you can look into this one other than the fact that the defense just completely dropped the ball in this one, and they desperately need their starters back. And also maybe this is also just kind of a sign that maybe Atlanta is not as deep as they thought it is, and they just better hope they don't have another injury crisis like they had last season, because I think we saw last season when Atlanta had that injury riddled season where they were just completely exposed because of lack of depth. It's once again shown in this one with all those key starter out. In this one, they pretty much showed no fight whatsoever in this one against Columbus. But moving on in the next match, we got DC versus the New England Revolution, and the Revs, they continue to have a great start in this one with a come from behind 2-1 win against DC United. Though early on, Vajek Denovic would hit one straight to Miller. It's going to take a while for me to get his name. I should just call him Ismair because his first name is actually more easier to pronounce than his last name. But in the 4th minute, Wood also hits one right to Miller, as I thought New England was on the front foot and was looking for the opener. Overall, I thought New England definitely deserved to win this one because they had more of the opportunity, especially early on. Bo then hits one into the side netting from a tight angle before he should have scored this one in the 11th minute. I mean, from 4 yards out, he's got to bury that one, and this is just kind of the limitation of Gustavo Bo. I mean, he can score goals for this Revs team, but there's also times where he missed some big opportunity like that one. But yeah, the Revs were all over DC early, but can they be clinical in terms of their finishing? Like if they were being clinical, they should be 1-0 up by now. But the first shot for DC did came in the 18th minute as Hopkins would put one into the side netting before Hopkins would also put one right to Petrovic, and DC's kind of started to get back into this game. I mean, it was a slow start for the hosts in this one, but they got back into this one, and then Pagnoto would miss wide from close range. But then in the 45th minute, DC takes the lead. It's Christian Benteke scoring from Kuan to make it 1-0 in favor of DC. This has got to be great news for DC to see Benteke banging in the goals, because I know last season he was pretty snake bitten with all those missed chances. But at least this season, I mean, he is still at times missing chances, but he has shown that I think he could be a double-digit goal scorer for this DC team. Yeah, he scored again here to make it 1-0, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. Now in the second half, Hopkins trying to make it 2-0, but he hits one right to Petrovic. I thought Jackson Hopkins had a good game in this one. Bo then hits one right to Miller, as I thought both of these teams were getting some good opportunity to get the second goal of the game, and not long after I wrote that, the second goal of the game did came, and it came from the New England Revolution, as Gustavo Bo would finish here from heel to tie the game up at one apiece. Though on the other end, Petrovic would deny Fontas, who tried to get an instant response for DC before Funtas would hit one right to Petrovic. But, the momentum was with DC. I mean, they were pressing back to try to get the winning goal, but instead, it's actually New England, the one that gets the winning goal, as in the 88th minute, Noah Buck gets his first career MLS goal. Always great to see him finally gets on the score sheet, because I really highly rated this kid. But, it kind of is a fortunate goal for him to score his first career MLS goal. I mean, took a wicked deflection, but I don't think he cares like that. That's a great moment for this young kid that definitely may have some good potential to be a very decent player, and a guy that can be even sold off for a huge amount of money to Europe down the line. But yeah, that gives the lead for New England. Though Pines did had a header that was clear off the line there for DC before Benteke had a header that goes straight to Petrovic in the second minute of stoppage time. And again, DC, they're showing their resilience. They're not going to just quit here despite giving up that late goal. They were throwing the kitchen sink, and New England was just hanging on for dear life to get all 3 points on the road, which they do, as they win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 16 that New England has, 5 shots on goal compared to 7 that DC had, 3 shots off target compared to 7 that New England has. Both teams had 4 shots out of block, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that the Revs had. And again, the Revs continue to have a strong start for, this season. I mean, minus that one bad performance against LAFC, they have looked really good so far this season. But for DC, yeah, I mean, they're going to have a lot of these kind of games where there's going to be times where they look good, and then there's going to be times where they just look bad, because of how it's just kind of how the way that this team is built. I just feel like the inconsistency of this team is the reason why I don't think this team is going to make it to the playoffs, and it's already kind of showing it in the early part of this season. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games as part of this first part of the review of looking at the first 8 games of match week number 5. So moving on, in the next one, we got Inter Miami versus the Chicago Fire, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought the Chicago Fire was going to blow a multiple goal lead for the second game in a row. I mean, with the way how Miami was able to get the equalizer, and that knowing the Chicago Fire, they're probably going to not only blow that multiple goal lead, but end up losing 3-2 in that one. And then something happened in it stoppage time. That is something that I don't see the Chicago Fire does a lot, whether they're at home or on the road. But in the first half, yeah, in the first 10 minutes, not much was happening. In fact, not much happened in the first 15 minutes either. Shots were only 1-0 in favor of Chicago. The first shot for Miami came in the 18th minute when Malta had a long range effort that was denied by Brady. I mean, that's the thing that Miami can do. This is a team that loves to go for a goal from long range, and they have definitely scored some banger goal. And here, John Mota almost scored another one if it wasn't for Chris Brady. But in the 30th minute, it would be the Fire that gets the opening goal. It's Chris Mueller scoring from Shabilko and Gutierrez, and then 8 minutes later, they would double that lead. It's Tehran, the one that gives the Fire a 2-0 lead. I don't know how Tiran was able to score this goal. I mean, this was just from the tightest of angle. He just absolutely rifles that one on the top, on the right side, or from a very tight angle. I mean, when you see a goalkeeper beat from a tight angle, you maybe could question them, but I don't think Drake Counter can do anything about it. I mean, he just kind of stood there thinking, what the heck just happened? But yeah, nevertheless, that gives Chicago a 2-0 lead. But at the same time, I also wrote Miami defense, it was falling apart in this one, and it looked like they were taking an international break because it was non-existent in this game, and this is why, losing Gregory a couple of games ago, I mean that is now even a bigger loss than we thought it would be. I mean, I know that he was a very intimate piece for this Inter Miami side, but yeah, ever since he's done for the season, that back line is just getting completely exposed, and it was once again in this game too. But that being said, in the 39th minute, Mota did try to respond for Miami, but he was denied by Brady. But in the second minute of stoppage time, Miami gets the goal back before halftime. It's Negri scoring from Mota to make it 2-1 in favor of Chicago. I think that's his first career goal for Negri there for Inter Miami. But we do head to halftime with the Fire still having a 2-1 lead. Now in the second half, Calendar would deny Shabilko in the near post. Once again, not much chances for both teams in the second half, which usually that favorites the road team. But remember, this is the Chicago Fire. You know that every Fire fans will not believe the fact that they will go to win this one. In fact, again, up to this point, even the most optimistic Fire fans will be thinking, yeah, let's see how they're gonna blow this one, because as the half goes along, Miami was starting to really push for the equalizer. I mean, they weren't creating too much chances, but they were definitely getting more of the possession, and it looks like the Fire was basically holding on, which is never a good thing because you know that this team is going to eventually give up a goal, and that the lead looks like is in danger. And it was. In the 76th minute, the Chicago Fire did their typical Chicago Fire thing, blowing multiple goal lead, as Stefanelli would score here from Negri and Duke to tie the game up at 2 apiece. I think that's Stefanelli first goal for Inter Miami too. I'm not sure did he score back in week number 1 against Montreal. If he did, then this would be his second career goal. But if he didn't, this would be his first career MLS goal. And yeah, that ties the game up at 2 apiece. And at this point, I think everybody knows what's gonna happen. Looks like Chicago's gonna blow this one, but instead, in the 85th minute, Tiran did try to retake the lead for the Fire, but he only heads it right to counter. But then in the first man stoppage time, this is where I think even Fire fans are a little surprised when this happened, as Kai Kamara would score his first goal for the Chicago Fire from Gutierrez and Casad to make it 3-2 in favor of the Chicago Fire and put him one goal closer to Landon Donovan in terms of the second of all-time list in terms of goals scored in MLS. But yeah, I say that is a huge surprise because I don't think any Fire fans would have thought that they would blow a multiple goal lead, and yet they somehow find a way to retake the lead in the first man of stoppage time. Though in the 6 minute stoppage time, it was almost free if Duke did not just stab that one into the back post. In fact, he just missed that one wide as he was trying to stab it in the back post. And yeah, in the end, Chicago, they get their first victory of the season. I mean, I don't think this is how they wrote or this is how they imagine their first win of the season will do, but they'll take it. Shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 11 that Miami has. 7 shots on goal for the 5 that Fire has. 8 shots off target for the 1 that Miami has. 3 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Chicago has. And possession-wise, 67% possession compared to 33% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. Remember when there was a lot of optimism for Inter Miami after winning their first 2 games at home, and there was a lot of buzz that maybe things are going to be great for Phil Neville's team? Yeah, so much for that. I mean, 3 straight loss now ever since that good start, and that there's definitely some concern, especially with the defense too. I mean, the defense, it looks just as bad as last season, and I think a lot of that has to do with Gregory. After he suffered that injury, that complete back line just kind of crumbled because of it. But now moving on in the next match. We got the Philadelphia Union versus Orlando City, and Orlando City did something that nobody has done to the Philadelphia Union, at least for the past 24 games when a road team play against the Union at Subaru Park. And that, of course, is walk away with all 3 points. And, early on, it looked like this maybe could be a goal-scoring fest, too, because just 2 minutes in, Ojeda would score from Pereira to make it 1-0 in favor of Orlando, and then just 7 minutes later, Anguilla would score from Ojeda and Pereira, and all of a sudden, Orlando City were up 2-0. And that crowd was stunned silence at Subaru Park. Like, Orlando just kind of shut out of the cannon in this game and have a fast start. But you also got to remember this is the Philadelphia Union. You know they will want to put up a fight, and in the 17th minute they immediately got one back as Andres Pereira scored against his former team. He actually did celebrate against his former team, which was kind of interesting because he's been with that team for a long time. I didn't think he was gonna think about celebrating, but nevertheless he did, and he did get one back for the Union. And at this point, I thought, are we in for a goal fest? Because 3 goals in the first 17 minutes, I thought this was going to be a high scoring affair, and this was going to be another game where I said in the preview it's going to end 0-0, and it's going to look like the game against or the game between Columbus and Atlanta, with it's completely proven me wrong. It turns out to be there was a lot of goals in the game. Well, it turns out it wasn't, because Stade decided that, yeah, that was the last goal he was concede in the 17th minute against this Philadelphia Union side, because he would first deny Uru from long range before he tipped Elliott free kick over the bar as the Union was pressing late to try to get the first half equalizer. But we do head to halftime with Orlando holding on to a 2-1 lead. In the second half, Stade would deny Torres full stretch as he was pushed this one onto the post. I don't know if he actually got a fingertip on that. I mean, on the league website, it did say that it hits the post, but I think Stade did get something on it and it just tipped that one onto the post. But there was no doubt the Union picked up where they left off. Like, they were pushing for that equalizer. Orlando was doing their usual role kind of performance, which is decided to bunker and try to hold on to a 2-1 win. Though they did have a rare opportunity in the 61st minute when Anguilla went in on goal but missed that one wide. Before in the 62nd minute, Stade would deny Glesnes, but he did allow a big rebound here, which fortunate for him, the Union wasn't able to capitalize. Wagner then hits a absolute rocket of a volley shot. I mean, he absolutely stinged that one, but it was over the bar there. And then Stade, he absolutely robbed Bedoya here. Like, Bedoya had a point-blank effort. I don't know how Stade was able to make the save here. And I think I know why. Because I think somewhere in Peru, Pedro Galese must have decided to transfer his goalkeeping ability and his goalkeeping in power to Stade in this game. Because, yeah, he was the only reason why this game is 2-1. Like, the Union had multiple chances in this one. And if it wasn't for Stade, I think the Union not only would have got the equalizer, but they probably would have had the lead by now. But in the 87th minute, Ojeda did try to ice it for Orlando, but he hits it straight to Bendik before Pereira had another opportunity in the first minute stoppage time trying to score his second goal against his former team, but he hits it straight to Sadahir. And in the end, Orlando, they hold on. They win 2-1 in this one to snap the Union 24 home unbeaten streak, which I heard that it is the longest in MLS history. So yeah, that's definitely gonna sting for the Union. I mean, you knew that eventually was gonna come to an end, and maybe this week was going to be the case because they're missing so many players and even some of their backups in this one. But yeah, this was a game where it just belongs to Stadahire in this one. Like, he absolutely was just an absolute wall in this one. And the stats basically backed up that too. 26 shots compared to just 12 that Orlando has. Well, actually, 12 is a fair amount for Orlando City. 4 shots on goal for the 6 that the Union has. 13 shots off target for the 4 that Orlando City had. 7 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Orlando has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Union has in this game. And I would say that this is kind of a vintage Oscar Pereira role performance from last season, where, it's not going to be pretty, but they know how to grind out resort, and how their goalkeeper would just go on Manuel Neuer mode against their opposition. And speaking of which, for the Union, yeah, I mean, they just gotta have to move on from this one. This is just one of those games where unfortunately they just couldn't figure out start a higher besides that one chance that they had in the 17th minute. And that again, this is another team that, like what I said about Atlanta, you can't there's not much you can judge about this game because of the way that they're missing so many key starters in this one against Orlando City. But that being said, moving on, in the next match is Austin versus the Colorado Rapids. And I think for Los Verdes fan, there has to be some huge concern because, not only they dropped points in this game, in a game where they were facing against the worst team in the Western Conference, they were outplayed in this one. And they probably are fortunate the fact that they were able to get a point out of this one. Though early on, they did get off to a good start in the 5th minute as John Gallagher would score from Dre Usey to make it 1-0 in favor of Austin. John Gallagher is actually the leading goal scorer for Austin FC. I mean, if you would have told me that was the case in the beginning of the season, I wouldn't believe you. But man, what a run that John Gallagher has had. But that also kind of maybe is a problem for Austin FC because, so far, if your fullbacks is the one that is contributing the goals for this team and not your number 9 or even your number 10 because Dreyusi's been having problem in terms of goal scoring, at least in league play. I mean, he did get the assist in this one, but he's a guy that not only can be the magician for this Austin team, but can also be that lethal goal scorer. It just haven't shown so far in this one. And also, this goal was originally disallowed for offside, but I mean, it was pretty clear that when you look at VAR, Gallagher was clearly onside there. And yeah, that gives Austin a 1-0 lead. And you're thinking, well, looks like Austin is gonna get a comfortable victory because we know Colorado they're really struggling this season, and you wouldn't think that they would would have much fight in this one and just gonna get rolled over. That's when you're wrong, because in the 15 minutes, Stuvert would rob Lewis twice from close range there before Acosta would put it wide after Stuvert actually gave it straight to him on the free kick. This has happened a couple of times for Brad Stuvert. I mean, as much as he has made some incredible saves, there's been times where he has made some very boneheaded play, and this was just one of those boneheaded play that he is very fortunate that he was not punished. But one thing that I will say is that Colorado has responds well, and again, they could have easily just roll over because of how bad the start of the season has been for Robin Fraser's team, but they have done well in terms of responding and was pressing for the equalizer. Bassett almost had a chance to do so, but he hits it high from the corner. Lewis then puts it into the Stein netting before Stuvert had to deny Rosenberry on the back post. I mean, ever since the goal that was scored from Austin, it was all Colorado. Like they were knocking on the door to get the equalizer, and if it wasn't for Stuver making some big save, and also just the lack of confidence in terms of finishing for this Colorado Rapids team, this probably should have been tied at halftime. But we do head to halftime with Austin leading 1-0. In the second half, Dreyusi did fire a long range shot that was actually spilled by Yarbrough. And by the way, this is where my blue pen decided to kind of give up on me in terms of the ink, so I started to write things in orange, which I don't know if you can read it very well. But this one actually fall right to the path of Ethan Finley, who just could not put that one away, and I've immediately wrote. Now it looks like both goalkeeper was almost giving up gifts to their opposition because yeah, for Yarbrough, this season has been very inconsistent for him. There's been times where he's been good, like the game against Sporting KC, and then there's times where he does this, and he's very lucky he got away with that. So in the 66th minute, Stuver would deny Wilson on the header. That was a great save from Stuver because Wilson really hits that header well, but Stuver was able to tips it over. Max then curls one that goes straight to Stuvert, and Colorado was knocking on the door. Like they were pounding on the door to get the equalizer. It looked like Austin was hanging on for dear life. Max then would hit one again to Stuvert before Stuvert would rob Barrios, who was in on goal in the 83rd minute. I mean, Stuvert, he was single-handedly keeping this. He was trying to be like Stade for Orlando City, just keeping his team in the lead as long as possible. But unfortunately, unlike Stade that was able to do it, Stuvert couldn't do it because in the 85th minute, finally Colorado, after all those pressure that they had, it pays off. And guess who is on the score sheet for the Colorado Rapids? Yes, that's right. Your eyes is not deceiving you. Kevin Cabral actually scored a goal for the Colorado Rapids. It's his first goal for Colorado from Barrios to make it 1-0 in favor of, or actually not 1-0, but the game is tied up at one apiece up to that point. And it was a great finish from Kevin Cabral too. I mean, that was just a very typical number 9 finish. And you wonder, like I said before, as much as he was so snake bitten doing his time with the Galaxy, a change of scenery might help him because in that one, I think if this was last season, if he was still with the Galaxy, Cabral would not finish that. Like there was no chance in a world in a million mile that Cabral would finish that with the form that he was in with the Galaxy. But a new fresh start for him, and you can see that one chance that he has got, he's able to put it in, and that has really got to help his confidence that has been just really been been at an all-time low last season with the Galaxy. But yeah, that ties the game up at 1 apiece. But then on the other end, it looked like Austin was going to retake the lead as Rodney Redis went through on goal, and if Cabral can break his goal scoring curse, might as well be the same case for Rodney Redis, who actually had never scored a goal for Austin FC, and he almost did here, but he was denied by Yarbrough. I mean, imagine if Rodney Redis would have scored here. Like if Rodney Redis and Kevin Cabral would get on the score sheet in the same game, MLS After Dark is a real thing. Like that would be peak MLS After Dark when two of the most criticized player by their own fan base. Well, for Cabral, that was back when he was still with the Galaxy, and Redis, obviously one of the most criticized player in the Austin fan base, would get on the score sheet. MLS After Dark and peak MLS moment has clearly reached in this game. But it didn't happen, as in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw. And the shots in this one, 17 shots committed, just 7 that Austin has. 8 shots on goal committed, 3 that Austin has. 8 shots off target for the 4 that Austin has. No shots that was blocked for the 1 that Colorado has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Rapids has in this game. And normally, I would say that, maybe Austin will get a pass because of players missing on international duty. And you could say that may be the case because Leo Vasanen wasn't available in this one. But, I mean, the defense in this one, they must be thanking Stuver because of how they kept them in most of the game. But I think one thing that should not underestimate it if you're Austin is the problem going for it on the attacking end, because going forward on the attacking end they have not been great whatsoever. And the fact that I mentioned it, Dreyusi, yes, he's been assisting in goals and so forth, but he's not scoring at a rate that he has last season. And I expected that he was going to have a drop off, but not as big of a drop off as what we saw. It's been a really slow start to this season. And also, in terms of the other players, Rigoni continue to have problems for this team. Still haven't really got himself to reach his full potential with this team. And then Jarzy Zardes, again, another snake bin striker. How funny how the fact that the Colorado would get rid of a player that was scoring goals for them, and then he turned snake bin for the Rapids to basically receive a guy that was snake bin and then immediately score in his first appearance for the Rapids. I mean, that's I guess that's how MLS goes somehow. But yeah, for Austin, this is huge concern, because if you can just only got a point away against the worst team in the Western Conference and arguably one of the worst team in the league, there's got to be some alarm bells that has to be ringing for this Austin team. But moving on, in the last game on this board, in the last game in this review, is the Dynamo and NYCFC. So the Dynamo, they continue their strong cases of why their home stadium is a fortress with a 1-0 win against NYCFC. But this is also another game just like the Charlotte and Red Bulls game where, yeah, there wasn't really much that happened. I didn't really wrote too much notes into it. In fact, if you missed the first 20 minutes of this game, you did not miss anything. It was an absolute snooze as nothing happened in the first 20 minutes. The first shot didn't even came until the 24th minute, when Reigns actually puts it wide after just a WTF turnover from NYCFC. I mean, they got away with that one. Just a terrible giveaway that they had in their own half. Steres then heads it wide from close in the 41st minute, and we head to halftime. Surprisingly, 0-0 because of the lack of chances by either of these teams. But it wouldn't stay 0-0 for long. In the second half, a penalty was given to Houston after VAR deemed that Gray did foul Herrera in the box, which Bassi, for the second game in a row, was able to slot it home from the penalty spot. Though on the other end, Santiago Rodriguez did try to get an instant response for NYCFC, but he missed that one high. Before in the 61st minute, Bear almost double Houston lead, but he struck the post there from point blank. Vieira then tried to stab one in, but only was able to hit that one to Barraza in the 82nd minute. And really, as the time winds down, it still can feel comfortable for Houston. I mean, for NYCFC, they were really struggling going for on the attack. Kind of started to show those early season struggle that they have on the attack in this one against Houston in 2. Though Clark did have to make a save here to deny Gray from close range before in the 3rd minute stoppage time. Herrera did try to finish it off for Houston, trying to kill the game off, but he missed wide there for the Dynamo. But thankfully for the Dynamo, it doesn't come back to haunt them because they would hold on to win 1-0 in this one. Shots in this one, 9 shots compared to 5 that NYCFC had, 2 shots on goal for the 1 that NYCFC had, 6 shots off target for the 2 that NYCFC had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Houston has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Dynamo has in this game. And yeah, I mean, that's That's all I can say about this game. I mean, I just realized I've only spent 2 minutes talking about this game because, again, there was really not much that happened in this one that I would say was worthy, really worthy to spend time to talk about. Other than the fact that the Dynamo, they're able to get another home win and continue to show why their stadium is a fortress, and it's going to be the case for this the rest of the season. They always tends to do well at home. Well, for NYCFC, yeah, this was just kind of a revert of back to the problem that they had in the beginning of the season of struggling going forward on the attack. And they're gonna try to hope to fix that in the next game too. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review for these 8 games that happened yesterday. And as I said before, we'll look at the last 6 games tomorrow, including the game that I've attended between the Quakes and Toronto FC. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 4 games and the other 4 games on the board I talked about earlier in this review. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.